Welcome to Subramani. I had done a video long ago about what are the attributes for a successful doctor. So I thought I would revise it again and make a new one. So welcome to Subramani once again. So what this episode is or this video is because of a lot of interactions that I've had with doctors. Many of you may be aware, and for those who are not aware, I must have interacted with about 7,000-8,000 doctors for sure over the last 10 years, when I have been going around the countryside talking to doctors, whether they are gynecologists, pediatricians, ophthalmologists, all of them, about their money and their finances. And that's the time when they say a lot of things about themselves, about their practice, etc. And here is my list, which I think is necessary to become a successful doctor. First of all, at least in the Indian context, only extremely good people in academics, academically very good people, only they get chosen to become doctors, because medical seats are not available very easily. Now there is some better availability of seats, but still it's very competitive. So only the best among the best get selected to the best colleges. So the technical skills, I'm assuming for a minute, is already there. So what are these soft skills? Some little bit of technical skills also may come in, but largely I'm going to talk about soft skills. First is communication skills. Absolutely no doubt that when you're talking to people, whether you're a finance professional or a medical professional, you have to have the ability to communicate well. Communicate well means the ability to listen well. Because given time and empathy, all the patient will reveal all about himself or herself, right? They will come out of it very slowly, but they'll come to giving you all the details. So the ability to listen in such a way that the patient wants to speak to you is very important. So this the second point which comes out of this is empathy. The patient should feel that yes, you are listening to him or her, so that they feel like speaking. If you rush them, if you hurry them, if you say that I know, come on faster, especially older people may not be able to keep pace with you, and they may not come out with the full facts. They may not tell you. They may not even realize that it is relevant, that it should be said. So as a doctor gets more and more senior, and he finds or he or she finds lesser time to do this, I like as a doctor gets more and more senior and he or she finds lesser time to deal with patients, I find what one homeopathy doctor in Bombay did. I'm not naming any of the patients or any of the doctors, so I'm not naming this homeopathy doctor. He's created many juniors. So when you go, you meet the doctor. Then he asks you many questions, and he asks you to write about yourself, and then a younger doctor sits with you and asks all kinds of questions and creates a note for the senior doctor. The senior doctor reads it. This helps because the senior doctor may not have time, and the younger doctor, who's a junior doctor, also develops by having a set of questionnaire, asking questions, noting it down, and develops those skills needed to become a better doctor. So I have seen one doctor do this. This obviously means you've got good language skills, empathy, communication skills, etc. Every doctor has to be very organized. See, two things happen. One is you are very organized in your clinic or in your dispensary, and also in your head, because many people would suddenly call on a phone and ask you for advice. It's very difficult, right? Unless you know the facts of the case very well, it's very difficult to handle. So you have to be very well organized in your head. Apart, of course, you're well organized because of your education. You're forced to be organized, you're forced to study, you're forced to make notes. All those things are there, but you have to get better and better at it as your practice increases. Doctors have to be curious also in asking many questions. Why does this happen, and why did this not happen, and things like that, because each patient is very different. And this is same of financial services also. Unless the financial advisor is able to ask you out of curiosity or whatever, unless he is able to ask you those questions, you may not even know the importance of those things. So doctor has to be curious. It's fairly obvious. This is not something which I should even be saying. A doctor should keep learning about not only about his own field, but also about the changes happening in the pharmaceutical industry, in the diet, in the way people consume food, the way people do not consume food, right? It's very difficult for older people like me to accept that people get up only at 12 a.m. Only at 12 p.m., right? They work to maybe UK timing, or they're on their own, so the whole morning is lost in my head, because we are early risers, right? So but things change. So when the lifestyle changes, when people change, you cannot keep on harping about the older things. When newer things happen, good doctors I've seen having a lot of empathy for other forms of medicine, right? So if you're a allopathic doctor, it does not mean you should have you should be contemptuous about Ayurvedic or homeopathic. Either you know it fully and therefore you believe in it, or you don't know it, but at least you accept that certain illnesses have cures in certain lines only, right? So this is again the question of empathy towards other patients, empathy towards other doctors, empathy towards other fellow professionals like a Ayurvedic doctor or a homeopathic doctor or a physiotherapist, right? Having empathy towards all such people also is important. Understand that you're always a team player. A patient has a dentist, maybe a gynecologist, a pediatrician, everybody. So you have to go along with everybody. And once upon a time, there used to be a guy called the GP who sent you to a gynecologist or a dentist or a ENT specialist, anybody, right? He would be the focal point. Now that's not true. People just walk into a pediatrician's clinic saying, "Oh, I saw your board, so I walked in." I mean, that's what most of us do. So those things are important. There is no one focal point. So you have to understand how we work. So you have to be a team player. Of course, you have to be a team player even when you are doing surgery. But even in your real life as a doctor, I mean, as a pediatrician, you realize that you're one of the doctors that they are consulting. So being able to communicate with other doctors is also important. One more thing is, unfortunately or fortunately, our medical process of how you become a doctor, how you get selected, is very difficult, which there is a tendency for doctors to become very arrogant towards every patient, and they don't have enough patience to deal with them. This arrogance could come from feeling superior or things like that. So that has to be curtailed, and make sure that you got empathy when you're listening to when you're listening to the patient. Every patient is not just prescription and what can go wrong and things like that. That's of course there, but he's a human being. So being treated as a human being is something very important. Also, other skills like accounting and business skills are not taught in our MBBS colleges, right? Not taught at all, and these are also very important in your practice. So many doctors do not understand the basis of costing, right? So when you go to a big hospital, let's say you go to Apollo Hospital, and Apollo Hospital charges 1500 rupees for a visit. You want to meet any specialist, it's 1500 rupees or 2000 rupees. I have found that the biggest critic of hospitals are smaller doctors who say, oh, their charges are too high. But please understand, to run a big hospital requires a lot of effort, right? It requires air conditioning, requires infrastructure building, requires people. You have to create a waiting room. You have to, create a lot of other infrastructure along with a hospital. So all that costs money, so they will charge. So very important that to understand that the client understands that these costs are there. Some clients will pay, some clients will not pay. This is only for people who are willing to pay, right? Ability to pay, we are not even talking. Ability to pay has to be there. So these are hospitals which are run professionally, and they will cost a lot of money. Now, same thing is true for a doctor's own practice. When he creates his own practice, he has to understand that he has a lot of overheads, right from air conditioning to electricity bills to people to everything, right? All those costs will be there. and if you are an ophthalmologist or a dentist, there's a tremendous cost of equipment. So all those costs will have to be included, and therefore dentist might charge you 3,000 rupees for cleaning your teeth, and you say, "अरे काम क्या है?" काम ये है that all the costs of the clinic have to be recovered from the patient. True for any doctor, true for any profession, right? So understand accounts, understand financing, and if you want to be in your own practice, understand bookkeeping, accounts, all that is very important. A doctor has to be emotionally intelligent and be able to handle adversities, right? So if you are a surgeon and you see a death on the table, it will take you a long time to recover from that, especially if you're a young doctor. As you get older and you see more such events happening, or you're experienced enough and you are emotionally more intelligent, you will be able to handle this better. But being able to handle emotions, being able to handle stress, all that is very important. And in Indian context, if you're working in a hospital, you have to be very smart and quick and maybe very fit and have some knowledge of judo and karate. You never know when you would get stabbed. It is terrible, but you have to be reasonably alert to find out patients how they behave. I mean, this I am exaggerating, but doctors getting attacked is very common, so I don't know how you will handle it, but knowing that such a thing happens in India is very important. So stress, handling stress, being fit, unless you are very fit yourself and you are not addicted to tobacco, alcohol, etc., you cannot see the ill effects of tobacco or alcohol or not being, generally not being fit. So if you are a cardiologist, you better. So cardiologist, you can't be a very fat and sloppy cardiologist. I mean, I'm not body shaming anybody, but if I go to a cardiologist, or if I go to a doctor for my fitness, I want to see, or a dietitian, I want to see a reasonably fit doctor. I don't want to see a fat doctor who has not taken trouble to keep himself or herself fit. I'm not being judgmental. I'm sure there are many people who are fat because of medical reasons, but I'm saying that the optics is very important. When I see the person who is my doctor and who says, oh, you have to be fit, you have to reduce weight, you have not eat oil, you have not or egg fried and blah blah blah, I want to know that whether he is able to implement it himself before he is giving me all this advice. Good problem solving abilities, because problems will arise pretty often, whether at the operating table or at the hospital where you're working or at your clinic, and therefore attention to detail, right? So when you're performing surgery or whatever you're doing, the attention to detail, even as a physician, the attention to detail is very important to know before you prescribe medicine, right? So also, it is important for doctors to avoid conflict of interest, right? As a pediatrician, people will ask you for referrals. As gynecologists, people will ask you for pediatrician references. So, giving references, suggesting what kind of tests are required, suggesting where the test should be done, what tests are to be done, whether it is necessary, not necessary, right? It is important for doctors to avoid conflict of interest, whether you're a shareholder of a pharma company or whatever gifts they have given you, whatever it be. Make sure that you're not influenced overly by the advances made to you by the pharma industry, and they are very good at it, so be careful about that. What is your resilience? How well can you handle emergencies? How well can you handle deaths? Right, all that is also important. And needless to say, you have to be a learning machine. Charlie Munger says there is no good investor or no good doctor who can afford not to be a learning machine. So all this put together, this is a lot of observation, a lot of reading and all that, which and I do not know whether it is complete. Once I put it up, I'll send it to a few doctors, then hopefully I'll get some brickbats and bouquets. So based on that, I'll do another video. Thank you.